Good morning, everyone. I just give a couple of seconds to everyone to take a seat. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you very much to our speakers being here. In a minute, I will introduce all of you for our audience, but I'm sure that people participating in this panel know you already very well. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Margherita Movarelli. I am the head of communications and marketing at the Wilfred Martin Center for European Studies, which is the political foundation and think tank of the European People's Party in Brussels. And we have the pleasure of co-hosting this panel. So I'm very happy to be here. It's a very important topic that we also address in several activities and research at the Martin Center. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing from our speakers. Let me start by introducing Ms. Nadia Bouaida from Morocco. She's the chairperson of the Foreign Affairs, National Defense, Islamic Affairs, and Moroccan Expatriates Committee at the Moroccan Parliament. And the other guest from Croatia is Mr. Gordan Grlic Radman. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Croatia. Last but not least, Mr. Clint Camilleri, Minister for Gozo from Malta. So thank you very much once again for being here with us today. Before we start immediately with the first round of questions, let me give you some points to set up the framework of this discussion. The title is A Wake-Up Call, New Centrality of the European Neighbourhood. I think there were several wake-up calls that have also called in a way for closer cooperation between the two sides of the Mediterranean, the EU and its southern neighborhood. Started with the migration crisis, then the COVID-19 crisis, and last, unfortunately, the Ukrainian crisis. And there are also two dimensions of this issue, I think. First of all, an internal dimension when it comes to cooperation, internal cooperation between different European member states, with different interests and priority, and also, on the other hand, the dimension of external cooperation, meaning the cooperation between the EU and our southern neighboring countries that are represented today by Ms. Bouaida. So it will be very interesting also to see the two sides of the coin and the two perspectives. Third point that I would mention, the new agenda for the Mediterranean of 2022. It sets the strategic framework of such a cooperation in order to guide the EU action and its relations with the southern neighborhood on different topics stemming from trade, migration, peace and security, digital transition, and much, much more. However, and I would like to see with you what you think about it. It seems that there are still many open questions when it comes to the effectiveness of this new framework. So I will see with you what we can do better following the strategic framework set by the new agenda for the Mediterranean. Last but not least, and I would also like to start our discussion with that, the war in Ukraine. We know that the war has opened a new era of uncertainty, unfortunately, and challenges in the Euro-Mediterranean partnership, despite we know there is certainly mutual dependence on many topics. So I would like to start by that and to have a first round of questions to see a bit how the war in Ukraine has impacted the Euro-Mediterranean relationships. And I would like to start from the Moroccan perspective. So I will switch to French, if you don't mind, because Ms. Bouaida would prefer to answer the question in French. So I will give you the time also. There is interpretation provided. So if you need interpretation, Feel free to use it. Madame Bouaïda, pour ce qui concerne la coopération...
Concerning the cooperation among the two sides of the Mediterranean Sea, which is the way, according to you, to properly promote and encourage a greater cooperation and collaboration among the different EU member states and the Mediterranean countries, and also which is the impact of the crisis in Ukraine on this kind of relationships. Of course, we need to talk about security, safety, energy security, so several problems to take into consideration. So which are the actions, the policies that could support this cooperation according to you? Thank you very much. It is a pleasure for me to be invited and to have the possibility to take the floor during this important event. As you all know, there is an interdependency between the two sides of the Mediterranean Sea. We all share a strong historical and social bond. This is definitely true. But what happens in the southern side has impacts on the northern sides and vice versa. This is, again, really true. Morocco plays, and I'm going to talk about the models of partnership between Morocco and European Union that has been defined several years ago now. So, for example, just to provide you with some key figures concerning this partnership among Morocco and the European Union, in the year 2000, the Mediterranean Agreement for the association between Morocco and the EU was in force in order to define the relationships between Morocco and the EU. In 2003, there was the neighborhood policy in order to strengthen and complete the previous partnership, in order also to strengthen the dialogue among the two different parties, so that right now this dialogue is more structured. Then the joint declaration for a partnership in terms of mobility, dated 2013, followed by the action plan of the same policy of 2014, was really important in order to define new steps forward from the economic, political, and social point of view among those two countries. So, as you have already said, while mentioning the war between Russia and Ukraine, of course, it has an impact on the entire world. First of all, we can mention the increase in oil and gas prices. The price of oil increased by 47%, and then the increase of the wheat price that increased by more than 80% compared to the previous year, and then the increase of starvation and hunger in African countries that now concern one person out of five in African countries again. And this is also linked and due to the conflict in Ukraine. And I always provide an example of Morocco and the Morocco government choosing some specific measures in order to face these specific crises. So, for example, there is a subvention concerning raw materials, for example, wheat or sugar or gas as well, so that population, citizens will not be touched by those prices increases and will keep on paying exactly the same price. So a fixed price is established by the government. This is also a procedure. This is also linked to another specific procedure, that is to say the social unified register, in order to understand to locate the different households with a non-stable revenue, so that they will be better supported by the government. So they will receive some direct support, and this is provided by the government. So the government will pay for the price difference when it comes to the gas price, for example, or wheat or sugar price. Then we also have to mention the impact of COVID-19. So some other direct impacts caused by the pandemics. And just to conclude, I would like to say that this crisis has had a huge impact on the entire world. So we are now obliged, let's say, to work as if we were one unique entity. So the northern side of the Mediterranean and the southern side of the Mediterranean should work as one unique entity in order to face all those challenges. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that many of the issues that were just mentioned by Madame Buaida are also present in Croatia, certainly in the EU, when it comes to the consequences of the war in Ukraine. We know also how important the Euro-Mediterranean partnership is for Europe. Given your geographical area, I would like to ask you, how has the crisis in Ukraine impacted in a way pre-existing vulnerabilities in the EU, in the Balkans, and in the Mediterranean region? Because you are in a way part of all of them, although you are more of a Mediterranean country, but you are bordering with the Balkan area. So perhaps you can tell us more about that, and what are the priorities and prospects for an integrating approach in dealing with these challenges?
Oh, yeah.
You have your microphone.
Okay, you have microphone. So you're a privilege. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, and buongiorno. It's very nice, and I'm very glad to be invited and to be again here in Rome in the very beginning of December. Yes, after the 24th of February, a lot changed not only in Europe but in the whole world, and because the international law was broken by the Russian aggression, and just we have to live in such a new circumstances, it's new reality. We used to live in during the Corona, the Corona time, but of course, no one expected that that such a crisis with war, such an aggression would happen in the 21st century, however. Of course, given to its geopolitical special position of Croatia and bordering Western Balkans, Croatia, together with Slovenia, they are members of the European Union, and 30 years ago, Croatia and Slovenia were the part of the former Yugoslavia, which are now the Western Balkans plus Albania right now, and the rest of the former Yugoslavia or Southeast Europe countries, Western Balkans, are on the way to be also part of the European Union and members of the NATO. But however, the situation and negative impact implications coming from Russia, it's not the same in these countries. And of course, instability in the Western Balkans was also evident for a long time prior to Russia's aggression against Ukraine, and Russia traditionally used its historical, political, and economic ties with Western Balkans just to exert its influence in this European region. Western Balkans is actually composition of 6 countries, and all the countries have a different approach towards European Euro-Atlantic organization. However, although they all would like to be part of, and all the countries of the Western Balkans are also surrounded by the members of the European Union and members of NATO. all the countries in the Western Balkan should promote, first of all, to show solidarity. Now it's very important, solidarity, and to be on right side of history, democracy. European Union, NATO, Alliance, we are on the same page of history, democracy, respecting the rule of law, human rights, all the values, just with creating such a world order based on rule. And in this situation, we should to show our readiness and solidarity towards Ukraine and to stop the war, aggression war coming from Russia. In this regards, European Union undertook a mission, military assistance mission to even more to help and to assist to teaching their training their Ukrainian soldiers. But when it comes to Western Balkans, it's very important that all the countries should promote regional stability and should to align their policies with European unions. And of course, to promote good neighbor relations, first of all, among each other and with members of the European Union, such Croatia and or Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and so on. When it comes to Croatia, it's in our interest to have a stable and institutional functional Western Balkans, because it's our immediate neighborhood. First of all, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Croatia is bordering more than 1,000 kilometers. Croatia will soon be a member of the Schengen zone. We will introduce the euro, and we are on the way to be a member of OECD. That means Croatia fulfilled all the foreign policy goals, objectives, and what remains the stability of the Western Balkans. That means it's really our issue, not only Croatia, but of the European Union as a whole. So we are pursuing a policy of facilitating stability in Western Balkans, so in general in Southeast Europe, through all encompassing economic cooperation, as of course, as well as EU and NATO enlargement policy. After aggression on Ukraine, our particular priority is to be instrumental actually in the energy diversification for the Western Balkans region, having in mind that, as you said, that Croatia, given to the special circumstances and geopolitical position, would like to be an energy hub for the region. And let me point just now some examples of our policy when it comes to energy diversification. You know that our oil pipelines are providing oil supply to Western Balkans neighboring countries, with all oil shipped through the Mediterranean and to the North Adriatic coasts of Croatia. Their port, a very important port, Rijeka, of course, which then enables just not countries in the region to be more independent from Russian oil supplies. And then also very important, it's gas. We are investing in new gas pipelines, and it is in process of doubling the capacity on the island of Krk. It's LNG terminal. The capacity right now is 2.9 BCM, a billion cubic meters, and we decided in August, our government, to double the capacity of our floating LNG terminal. Of course, that this new, quite new gas interconnections will be able to supply Bosnia and Herzegovina, our immediate neighborhood. Of course, other countries in the region, with gas, just in order to decrease dependency, of course, on Russian gas supply. And it is the step forward to phase out our dependency on Russian oil and gas. This, of course, will include also the North African LNG sources as well. For us, it's very important, and now, right in this situation, to pull together, to stick together, and to find a common interest, and we have it. And Croatia is really happy to be also the member of Mediterranean such as initiatives, and to be a partner, to be a member like EU Med 9. This is also another very important project of cooperation and contributing to energy diversification in its cooperation between Italy, Croatia, and Slovenia through the North Adriatic Hydrogen Valley project aimed at producing green hydrogen. Our Prime Minister is a strong proponent of this project. So such the practices, of course, should be multiplied along the shores of the Mediterranean, and of course, we are also ready to share lessons learned with our southern partners.
Yeah, absolutely. If there is, I think, one lesson learned from the past crisis, the COVID crisis, and now the crisis in Ukraine, it's that cooperation with neighboring countries should not only be encouraged, but it's strongly needed, because we are in these challenges together, and therefore cooperation is really instrumental in finding common solutions. Speaking about, geopolitical, particular geopolitical position, I would like to see with you, Mr. Camilleri, as you come from a small country, in a way at the periphery of the EU, part of the EU, but also very close to our southern neighborhoods. I would like to see a bit with you what kind of role small member states bordering the southern neighborhood, such as Malta, what kind of role they can play in ensuring that the neighborhood is at the center of the European foreign and security policy. How do you see this? And obviously, how has the war in Ukraine changed EU priorities in this regard from your perspective?
First of all, good morning and buongiorno a tutti voi per la vostra grande accoglienza qua a Roma. Malta has always promoted the European foreign policy that recognizes that peace and security in our neighborhood is fundamental for the stability in Europe. As a matter of fact, one of our former prime ministers used to say that there can be no peace in Europe if there's no peace in the Mediterranean. As such, the new agenda for the Mediterranean should be seen as an update to our approach and an opportunity to renew our engagement in the region and other relations with our southern partners, to move forward also together in the post-COVID era. However, we cannot neglect the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, which has further exacerbated the situation in our southern neighborhood, bringing with it challenges with wide-ranging global implications. The European education area is an important area on which we should all collaborate. I truly believe that this can be done through information sharing, exchanges of best practices, as well as available tools and initiatives across all levels and all types of education. I would also to remark that even though we are European, we acknowledge that we all have different cultures, which we are all proud of. However, I am proud to say that in times of crisis, we all came together to help Ukraine to safeguard its cultural institutions. And I believe that should such a situation arise again, we will once again be united in our position. Malta maintains that our work in digital and green transition must continue whilst ensuring that we do not overregulate the sector, stifling innovation in the process. We also need to ensure that our southern neighbors are also equipped with the necessary tools to adapt to the green and digital transition. Additionally, the EU must remain attractive to all possible investors. Furthermore, we must provide the right grounds for research and innovation and development. The European Union has potential, and we must make sure that this is used optimally. In order to do so, we must continue to provide for inclusive and sustainable digital policies. The pandemic and the ongoing war in Ukraine has underlined the importance of food security. Therefore, we appreciate the initiatives being taken in order to better prepare for challenges ahead. Coordination on a European and international level is vital for dealing with crisis, and we should not also forget our southern neighbors in our response. The agreement reached on 22nd July, allowing for the reopening of trade routes from the Black Sea to exports of wheat, has been particularly helpful. Furthermore, the creation of European solidarity lanes and the assistance provided to regions that have been severely affected have demonstrated how the EU has been influential in combating hunger and in strengthening food security. When it comes to energy crisis, we need to continue acting with a shared desire to concretely take steps forwards in terms of the necessary actions that must be taken. In Malta, we have heavily subsidized also such price increases. From the beginning of the war, 24th of February, there has been a spike in energy prices. However, we have argued that our government should shoulder that huge price spikes and not being transmitted on our people and on our residents. No matter our energy mix and electricity market design, it is evident that all of us are hurting, all the world is hurting. We are all now sacrificing to mitigate the impact on our citizens and make it through this winter. Although the situation today is much better than that we've experienced in August last summer, forecasts as to what will happen in the months to come are not very encouraging. Next winter might prove actually challenging. As Mediterranean countries, we must, however, also think of next summer. Our summers requires more energy than our counterparts in Northern Europe, given the very hot and dry season, especially in Southern Europe. Thus, urgent solutions which address our realities and which will benefit all of us must be found to curb the impact of rising energy prices on households and businesses. The spillover effects of not succeeding in finding a solution that benefits all of us is already showing in all spheres of economic activity, with high shocks in the energy prices now also impacting value chains and supply of goods and also services. In Malta, for example, we are clearly facing additional price increases, pressures because of transportation costs. One must keep in mind that in the case of Malta, all our connectivity is through air or through sea. So transportation costs have an additional effect. I come from the other island, from Gozo. That will have a double effect since we are an island within an island state. We acknowledge that much effort has already been done at EU level. We must believe that a good compromise has been reached on the table proposals on gas solidarity purchasing and the deployment of renewable energy, and thus we look forward for their formal adoption. As for renewables, more can be done in the Mediterranean and in the Mediterranean region. Our sea basin is a hotbed of renewable energy opportunities. However, it still needs a kickstart to make offshore technology commercially viable. Thus, we must continue to collaborate and cooperate as Mediterranean countries to successfully realize and optimize such opportunities. More also needs to be done to effectively address the energy prices crisis. We have been among the member states that have been calling for such a price correction mechanism. In this regard, we took the note of also the Commission's proposal presented last week, and we should be engaging constructively to develop a well-balanced compromise text with the aim of reaching a potential political agreement before the next European Council. Solutions are urgently needed so that we can avoid reliving the high prices experienced last summer. Our citizens and businesses are now looking for us for solution, and we must deliver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Camilleri. After this first round that, of course, touched upon the situation in Ukraine and the impact of the war in Ukraine in the two shores of the Mediterranean, there is one important issue that I think one cannot avoid to mention when speaking about Euro-Mediterranean cooperation, which is migration policy. So, Ms. Bouaïda, prend la perspective du Maroc quand on parle de la politique d'immigration.
So when we talk about migration, and when we talk about the different policies together with the European Union, which are the elements on which we still have to work and which are the priorities of Morocco. So if you can please give us like an overview of your country and the other countries of the Mediterranean.
Par la situation internationale.
In order to face the international situation. So when it comes to Morocco, today I have to say that we play an important role when it comes to migration. Migration from South Mediterranean towards North Mediterranean. Today, Morocco is seen as a transit country, but we have also decided to put in place some reforms and policies so that we can better integrate the migrants coming from African countries. They can definitely fully integrate within the Morocco society. They can find a job, they can work, and they can regularize their status. The European Commission, together with Morocco, decided to launch this year a new partnership about migration and the fight against illicit migration and human trafficking. And Morocco is a strategic and fully committed country of the together with the European Union when it comes to migration policies, because actually the collaboration about migration policies dates back in the past, and the national migration strategy is really strong concerning Morocco. And we put in place new strategies that are really advanced from the constitutional, administrative, political point of view, so that we can regulate the administrative situation and status of different migrants. And we are now also able to fully integrate them from the social but also economical point of view within the Moroccan society. Moreover, Morocco plays another important role when it comes to the fight against terrorism, and we strongly contributed to the regularization of migration. And when it comes to the fight against the terrorism, Morocco bases its actions on a multidisciplinary and multilateral approach. And we take into consideration all the different aspects and domains of our society. So I totally think that we can really support also the other countries from this point of view. We can be seen as a model, let's say. And I think that the collaboration between Morocco and the European Union and all the other countries actually from the Mediterranean region should be deepened, should be strengthened, so that we can properly face all the different migration flows. Can you please go into deeper details about the collaboration and can you please tell us where and how we can do more? So just to provide you with an example, for example, in Morocco, we have what we call the African Observatory for Migration. That is an observatory concerning the entire African continent that helps us understanding and evaluating the number of migrants so that we can also support them in order to fully integrate the society. So it would be better actually to use a similar structure, a similar institution also in other Mediterranean and European countries just to face the migration problem and to properly address it. Thank you very much.
Because once again, from a geopolitical perspective, also when it comes to migration policy, you're very much concerned. You are a Mediterranean country, but at the same time, we know how strategic is the area of the Balkans and how challenging it is. So I would like to hear from you when it comes to migration policy in Europe. What do you think are the main strengths and weaknesses, and particularly the weaknesses we should work on, also in cooperation with countries from the Mediterranean area?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. Of course, you mentioned the last word, cooperation. Cooperation is everywhere useful, and it's just a model of the life. How we can just in the world to survive, we have to cooperate. But we have to cooperate and to find a proper mechanisms and instrument how we just cooperate and how to act together. Multilateralism as approach is that's only mechanism. That means together. When it comes to migration, of course, it was and it is a really challenge for Croatia. And it's good news for Croatia in doing its best saving and the border. Croatia, as of 1st January, will be on a Croatian border, will be external border of the European Union. And in couple days ahead, so we will be invited to be a member of Schengen zone. For Croatia was really challenging being there during this period when we submitted our application to be a member of Schengen zone in July 2015 and to share border with Western Balkans. First of all, Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's the border, the longest border for one European countries, if you just exclude the Finland and the Russia Federation. And so we are combated illegal migration, and we are doing even right now with our 6,500 policemen along the borders with Bosnia and Herzegovina. For Croatia, it was not easy work, however, but first of all, we respected the human rights, and we should have to know that and to recognize and to make distinctions between the illegal migration and the legal migration, refugees and so on. It is very important to have a common migration policy, and you know that the biggest crisis happened in during the 2015, 7 years ago, and we don't like to it to happen again and to repeat this crisis. That means it is very important to have a common migration policy. And for this case, European Union issued a strategic compass. And the very important chapter is dedicated to the migration, however. But of course, the threats are coming actually not only from terrorism, but of course, illegal migration, it's a challenging issue. And we should not neglect, of course, South. South, like East and South, it's very important for us to work together. It's not only what has been happening, for example, in Croatia, not important, for example, to someone who is quite far from Croatia. That means we have to share a common, not only rights, values, and so on, but we have to stick together and to help us, to assist just when it comes the issues and threats that could threaten our society, democracy, and our order. In this regard, Croatia is a reliable partner, and of course in the European Union, but not only in the European Union, also with our southern neighborhood. I had a lot of meetings also with my colleagues in the North African countries and in Middle East as well. So for me, it's very, for example, important agreement between Lebanon and Israel as a good example how the very responsible politician just take care on the quality of the life of citizens, just to ensure the life of citizens. And even Lebanon also cares about 1.5 million refugees. We have also in Turkey refugees. We have in Greece refugees everywhere. But of course, we have a common solution how to help them and how to make distinctions between the really political refugees or migrants and those who just would like to find a better life or looking forward to find a better life. What is actually also the inner nature of every human being. But of course, when it comes to the Western Balkans, there is also so-called Western Balkan route for refugees or for illegal migration, and the two countries are up to be members of the Schengen zone. Not only Croatia, but Bulgaria and Romania, and so we are facing in the European Union also the problem with the illegal migration, and if you just to look in the Austria, they are also facing the problem with more than 90,000 illegal migrants, and the issue of the Schengen zone, of existing Schengen zone, really it's on the stake. So that means we have to find a common solution when it comes to illegal migration, and it's not only Croatian issue, not only Austrian issue, but if you see the debate on the enlargement towards Schengen zone, it is the very important issue, illegal migration. And if the countries like Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania are ready to be members of the Schengen zone, and we did everything to fulfill all the criteria, and all the three countries are ready to be member, even with our membership in Schengen zone, we will just strengthen our European external borders against illegal migration. It's based on, I think, so our power, might.
Thank you very much, Mr. Camilleri. Malta is another frontline country when it comes to migration, facing migration and also migration policy. We know that Malta recently has taken a strong line against illegal migration. And what I would like to ask you is how to improve cooperation with countries of the southern shore of the Mediterranean, particularly with those of origin and transit.
Yes, migration is a very sensitive topic locally at home. And it stems from the fact that actually our island state is the first country one could reach when leaving Northern Africa and trying to cross over to Europe. So it is naturally a very sensitive issue, like I believe other Mediterranean countries. But it makes it even more sensitive since our size, since we are a country, but we are an island country with a very small territory. And along the years, we have done much more, I believe, than the Call of Duty calls for. And we have done that efficiently and proudly. However, one must understand that a few hundreds that enter Malta, if calculated proportionally to the population or to the territory, would mean tens of thousands in other European countries. So that is why it is a very sensitive topic for our citizens. And I believe that we need a system that actually works on the ground and not something that only looks good on paper. We need a pact that it is evenly balanced between solidarity and a fair share of responsibility. We cannot justify to our citizens that we, as countries at the external border, took up more responsibility with no solidarity from other member states. And that is the plain and simple truth. For Malta, relocation remains the most effective tool for solidarity. The implementation of Solidarity Declaration agreed in June has clearly shown that there are practical limitations with a voluntary system, leading to difficulties in gathering the necessary pledges and in fulfilling the actual and timely transfers of migrants that would obviously alleviate the burden on frontline members like Malta and other member states in Southern Europe. So while we welcome the increased efforts on the external dimension of migration, Malta believes that our comprehensive partnerships with countries of origin and transit must be strengthened. We need to continue to provide support on the border management and capacity building measures to prevent irregular migration. Such efforts required continued outreach to partner countries as measures on the external dimension of migration will not be successful if there is no buy from the third country. So obviously, we believe that we need to have in place a system that is fair between all member states, a system that can distribute accordingly migrants, refugees who are qualified to enter the territory and to have status of refugees across all member states. Obviously, migrants who do not qualify must be repatriated, obviously according to with respect to international law. It is a very sensitive issue, not only for Malta, I believe, very much so, also for Italy, for a number of other Mediterranean countries. And it is also a sensitive issue for North African countries. And we, as Mediterranean countries, Mediterranean people, must find solutions and convince other member states to listen to our concerns, to our suggestions, in order to have an efficient system that discourages migration, however, a system that is also fair between all member states.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, I mean, to wrap it up, migration, security, energy and food crisis. We mentioned already so many topics that make us understand that deeper cooperation is welcome and needed. I wish we had time for a third round of questions, but we don't, unfortunately, because our speakers have to leave. So I want to thank you very much, all of you, for the interesting discussion, and I hope it was interesting also for our participants. Thank you very much, and also from my side, I wish you a nice continuation of the Med Forum. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as next session starts right away. Thank you.